Mandy-Autumn Chapter 4. November came roaring in with gusty winds and more wet weather. Mandy's depression would not go away. Her garden seemed sad too. It was virtually empty now, and the few brave flowers that remained were flattened by the rain, their yellow stalks sprawling in all directions. Most of the trees were bare, and the woods had a wet carpet of leaves. The cottage was damp and cold. Drafts came sharply through every crack in the walls and even into the shell room. Mandy kept a fire going as often as possible. Her supply of wood was not large and would soon be finished. It was impossible to collect more because of the rain. She longed for the spring to come again, for sunny days and a time when she could plant her garden once more and watch it grow. The prospect of the long, cold winter made her despondent. Matron informed her that she could keep her earnings again from the Jennings store. The shears were finally paid for. Mandy immediately purchased more matches and a lot of candles. She often did her homework by their flickering light. In the cottage in the late afternoon, Mandy sat in an empty room with only her books and a fire for company. The weather remained cold. Mandy woke one Sunday morning to discover frost on the ground. She ate a hurried breakfast and slipped away to the cottage. It was becoming increasingly difficult to climb the big wall. In wet weather, the bricks were slippery. She suffered scraped shins, and once she had fallen and banged her knee badly. Today her fingers ached from the cold. She paused to blow on them to warm them, but seconds later they only felt colder. Her breath hung mistily in the air. She ran to keep herself warm, but running made her chest hurt, so she slowed to a walk. She wished she had put on warmer clothes and some gloves. When she reached the clearing, she paused. The cottage looked pretty in the pale morning light. For a moment she felt the old thrill of excitement at seeing it. For the best part of a year she had cherished and loved this special place. It was her very own, and still no one knew her secret. There were patches of sparkling frost on the grass. It had outlined the spider webs in the garden. They shimmered and swung gently like beaded gossamer curtains. A sound over her head made her look up. A heron was moving in slow majesty low over the trees, its wings beating heavily at the air, its long neck extended in purposeful flight. Mandy wondered what the heron was doing in this neighborhood. Perhaps the stream led to a river or a weir, but if it lived nearby, it was strange that she had not seen it before now. She crossed the wet clearing, opened the garden gate, and walked up the path. Suddenly, she spun around in her tracks. She had never opened the gate before. Usually it was leaning neatly alongside the fence where she had once placed it. It had been broken. Now it was mended and in a shiny new black latch. Her heart turning somersaults, Mandy tried to remember if it had been like this the day before. She couldn't remember. She thought of the other gate, the big iron one that had the new padlock. Strange that these two things should happen in such quick succession. Who could have mended this gate, and why? She fetched a saucepan and filled it with clear, icy water. Then she boiled it on the trivet and made herself tea. The hot liquid tasted good, but it hurt when she drank it down. She realized with a small shock that she had been experiencing a sore throat for the past 2 days. She really hadn't been conscious of it until now. Holding the cup in both hands and trying to warm her fingers, she shivered slightly. She wasn't sure if it was because she was cold or if she was just frightened. It was disturbing to feel that someone had been around the cottage again. Although mending the gate was actually a harmless thing to do, nevertheless, someone else knew of the place and surely knew of Mandy too. Till Mandy found out who he was, she couldn't feel safe. She didn't like the uneasy feeling she experienced. She didn't stay long at the cottage. Today she had a desire to return to the security of the orphanage. She couldn't get rid of the premonition that something was about